today I have a very interesting conversation, and the conversation is about difficult conversations. You know, we're in this COVID-19 phenomenon where a lot of people are left without the usual distractions that we have. And we think about how to confront a lot of conversations that we haven't had before. And maybe we're thinking about how to rebuild relationships. And I was thinking to myself, what relationships are out there that are broken? And how can people, when they're in their silos, even think about how to do that? And I came across a brilliant psychotherapist, Tina Gilbertson. And she actually is a co founder of the Reconnection Club, which I think is fascinating. And she has also authored a book, Reconnecting with Your Estranged Adult Child, which I found fascinating because I thought, who fits in this category, right? How many estranged adult children are there? And it turns out to be, if I'm not wrong, Tina can correct me when we start, about 10 million in that category. And I found it so powerful, and I thought, wow, this is a discussion that we need to have. There are people that want to be part of this, want to hear this, and so I was just very inspired. So Tina, thank you so much for joining me.
It's my pleasure, Maaria. Thank you so much for having me on.
So let me ask you, let's dig in real quick. Tell me about how you define reconnection.
I think it's getting back to a place where there's comfort, there's a comfort level, there's a sense of closeness and ease. Maybe there's even more closeness and more ease than there was before. I mean, that would be an awesome scenario. But it's getting back to a place where you can breathe again and not be living in despair and tension, anxiety, or anger.
So we talk about the family unit a lot. We talk about the family unit and how that mirrors society. And we always hear the narratives with policymakers and also anthropologists about the importance of a family unit for a healthy society. Before we go into reconnection, do you feel that there is a connection between a healthy family unit and a healthy society?
Wow, that's a big philosophical question. I mean, I haven't given it tons of thought, but on the face of it, I would say that yes, I think that has to be the case. I mean, we learn how to do life, most of us, in our families of origin. That's how we learn how to do us, how to do relationships, how to do life. And so, yeah, if the family is healthy, that's going to really produce a lot of people who are able to participate in a healthy society.
So unconsciously, since you said you've never thought about it that way, unconsciously, this is probably what drives your work because you want to make society better, I'm assuming, right?
I see a lot of suffering in my work as a therapist. I have seen so much emotional pain over the years, and I want to alleviate that, and in so doing, kind of knit families back together because I know the power of the family. I value my own family so much, and I've been so lucky to maintain those ties. I just have a personal sense of the value of those family ties and how it makes life better. I mean, it completely affects your life, how your family ties are doing.
So tell me, this is a very specific category, adult children, and why you felt that this is the group of people that really was your calling.
Right. Well, I didn't even know that adult children estranging from their parents was a thing until I became a therapist. And I had people in the chair opposite with me who would talk to me about how disappointed or angry or sad they were about their relationships with their parents. And I would wonder, about their parents and if they knew the things that I was being told. And sometimes I would ask and say, have you told your parents this? And I would hear either I have tried, but they don't get it, or no, I could never because they won't get it. So I saw a disconnect there. And I thought, all these adult children are coming to therapy. And hopefully they're mostly being supported with compassion by therapists. But where are the parents seeking help? Where do they go? And so I started writing little articles here and there about, hey, parents, here's what I'm hearing from adult children. If they're not calling you, here are some things that may be the issues. And then I started hearing from parents and hearing from parents and hearing from parents with questions and gratitude for that work. And so I just got really drawn toward helping that particular group, parents who are unwillingly estranged from their adult children.
So, it's one thing what you're describing about children coming to you and talking about how they are not having proper communication with their parents, and their parents are not understanding, but it's a different category to be estranged. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that is a complete different isolation level.
Right, you're right. I mean, there are lots of relationships that don't have adequate or good communication, but that still kind of muddle along. Estranged relationships have distance in them, very often physical distance, but pretty much always emotional distance. Somebody has said, no more, I cannot engage anymore. And so I'm removing myself. And in the case of the people I work with, it is the adult children who are saying, I'm done, I'm removing myself. So that's very different from we don't communicate well. Because if we don't communicate well, we might keep trying and just sort of tolerate the fact that we miss each other a lot.
But this is very powerful, because what you're stating is that in your work, what you have seen is that it is always the child that leaves. Has it always been the child that has cut off the relationship, or has it been both?
Well, in the world, both do happen. I have heard from adult children who feel that they've been rejected by their parents, and that's devastating. Okay. But my work is with parents who are unwillingly estranged and want to reconnect with their adult children. They want to repair those relationships, and they want to find out how they can do that, especially if they don't understand how the relationship went so wrong in the first place.
So let's walk through a little bit. If a parent approaches you versus a child approaches you, mm-hmm. and what is your beginning point of guidance for each of those? Because they're separate, they're different entities.
Yeah, well, if a child approaches me, I sympathize if they've been rejected by their parents, but I don't have much for them beyond sympathy. And if your parent has cut you off without explanation, I make a point of saying that is not your fault. And it most likely has more to do with your parents' psychology and history than it has anything to do with you. So all I have to offer to the adult children is compassion. With the parents, the first question I ask is, what is your understanding of the reason or reasons why your child has disconnected? Because that's where it begins. If we don't understand the problem, we can't solve it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times the parents don't really understand why this is happening.
So, one thing that we know as being past children, right? So we can't speak for anybody else. We can only speak for ourselves. Mm-hmm. So as being past children, we know that we learn compassion, empathy, communication skills, so many different life skills from the role models that come in a form of a family for us. And if those are absent, it's kind of like this domino effect. If the parent doesn't have those skills, then the child doesn't develop those skills, and then there's no healing when it comes to emotional trauma. Are you able to translate that message to parents that, hey, listen, maybe there was some damage here at home to begin with that we didn't confront before this child walked away?
I love that you're bringing up the intergenerational process of trauma. Mm-hmm. And yes, I do address that. And the way I come to that is to talk to the parent about the parent as somebody's child. You have a child, but you were somebody's child, and you cannot pass on what you did not receive. I call it the emotional bucket. We show up, we got an empty bucket, and our parents, our families, they fill our buckets. And then we pass, if we have children of our own, we pass on all that good stuff. That's how that is ideally supposed to work.
Mm-hmm.
So if parents can begin to see themselves as having been the recipients of something coming down from generation to generation, they automatically find themselves more curious about their child's experience because they are a fellow adult child
Mm-hmm.
of someone.
And I think it's interesting what you say about the bucket being empty, because the child comes in with an empty bucket, but if the parent's bucket is also empty, then, I wonder, do you ever have this conversation with an adult child that your parent's bucket was empty to begin with? So it's like a damaged person with baggage trying to do their best, but there wasn't enough in the bucket to begin with, and does the reconnecting conversation begin there? I don't know.
That's a really good point, and it's a point worth making, that if your parents' bucket was empty, then your bucket doesn't get very full, and you don't have a lot to pass on. It may help to provide some perspective, but it doesn't actually heal the relationship. It's a beginning.
Yeah.
It's, oh, I understand that my parents didn't have that to give me, and so I gave what I could to my child, but I didn't get everything. Or from the child's point of view, I got what I could get, but not what they didn't have.
So this is key what you just stated, because relationships and moving forward in relationships, I'm assuming only, are based on perspective and healing. And you're so correct. You can have perspective, but that's not going to heal you. You can view something and be like, yeah, that was really tough, and this is why he or she acted this way. But that doesn't heal the emotional heart without a recognition of the hurt. So how about the healing? How do you guide people to healing, or even have the courage to ask for healing from your loved ones?
Yeah, I think that it can begin with forgiveness of oneself. The recognition that, oh, maybe my bucket didn't get filled, and that's why I wasn't able to fill anyone else's bucket, or maybe my parents' buckets didn't get filled. So if we start by forgiving yourself, there's a spread, a natural spread, I think, of that forgiveness and compassion. Like, we're all in this together, and then you can start to give yourself what you need and deserve, but maybe didn't get. And that's kind of a hard leap to make. Many people are still waiting for someone to come along and fill that bucket, because they rightfully deserve to have the bucket filled. But at a certain point, when it did not get filled, it's time to say, will I step up and be my own parent and fill my bucket? And if I can do that and I can start to heal, then I'm so much more empowered to help my child, to approach my child with compassion and what can I give you and all of that good stuff.
In your title, you use the term very deliberately, which is estranged. So let's talk about that term, estranged. Number one, how you define that, of what an estranged adult child is, what their reality looks like based on what you've seen. And then I feel like it comes to my mind, especially during this COVID phenomenon, is that the reality of being estranged is heightened at a different level psychologically, because at least you have someone calling on you and checking on you. You could be alone, but someone's going to know if you're going to fall down or something's going to happen. That estranged adult is experiencing something, 10 million of them that are experiencing something that a lot of people have no idea. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think estrangement is characterized by distance in a relationship where you would expect closeness. It looks different, though, for different people. There's a continuum. There might be complete and total cutoff with zero contact of any kind. And 150 years ago, if somebody chose never to talk to their family again, it was pretty easy for them to disappear and really never talk to them again. It's a little bit harder nowadays with the connected globe that we live in, but that's one kind of estrangement. There's also on again, off again, on again, off again. There's a troubled, strained, tense relationship that maybe things get to a head, and then there's cut off, and then we don't talk for a while, and then somebody reaches out and maybe we're back together. So on again, off again. That more cyclical or periodic estrangement, that may be the most common form of estrangement that we actually see. And then there's what I would call emotional estrangement, which I have people in the Reconnection Club who experience this with their children. They see their children regularly, but they feel like strangers where they used to be much, much closer. And so the distance is psychological.
So let's talk about the Reconnection Club, if you can. It seems to me it's a kind of a application of your work in the book in manifesting in real life. Is that correct?
Exactly. That's exactly it. If the book is a textbook, the Reconnection Club is an online school where parents can learn to apply the principles in the book in their particular case. And they can also talk with other parents in private forums about what they're doing. They can post, hey, here's a letter I was thinking of writing to my daughter. What do you guys think of this? There are courses and workshops that I've created for parents about specific topics. And I also have expert interviews in our library where I talk to experts about, again, specific topics. Is your child a highly sensitive person? That's something we have in the library. How does trauma affect families, like you and I talked about earlier, the intergenerational transmission of trauma. So there are audios and courses and workshops and other resources in the library, all there for parents to, tools for parents to work with and apply in their particular situations.
So my question to you, since you've defined an estranged adult child and what that may look like, and that it's a continuum, and that there is a Reconnection Club, that actually a community and a guiding course through your book to be able to do this. You also stated, however, that the drivers in the relationship for reconnecting are the parents. Now, what if the adult estranged child wants to reconnect? How do they get, what advice do you give to that adult child to start that conversation with those parents, to bring them in and to get a buy-in to this process?
Well, again, the adult child has, I feel, less control over the tone of the relationship. And they can be the change they want to see. If they want more respect from the parent, maybe they need to show the parent more respect, or vice versa, whoever is starting out. If you want more respect from the other person, maybe you start by being the model of what that looks like. But many estranged adult children really feel themselves to be at a dead end with the parent, because what they need, the parent meeting them halfway, has not happened. And so you asked about this pandemic and the isolation and the situation, and how are people experiencing that when they're already estranged? And from what I've heard, I mean, people differ, of course, in their whether they reach out, whether they choose not to, but there are certainly expectations, especially, surely you're reaching out to your aging parents right now during the coronavirus crisis, right? And estranged adult children have to deal with those societal expectations, and they have to grapple with this question of, should I reach out to this person whom I decided to not have contact with? Should I now reach out?
If they come to you with that question, and they say, what do you think? Should I? How would you respond?
I would start asking them about their situation. I would ask a lot of questions. How long has this been going on? Who initiated it? What were the reasons for it? When is the last time you had contact? What are you hoping to get out of it? So that would initiate a conversation.
What helps you in your work? Because you see a lot of hurt and past being brought up again and again. What helps you to stay positive and keep helping to reconnect people? And what helps you move forward to keep other people move forward in their relationships?
I have total faith in the ability of people to heal if they are up for healing, if they're up for it. Sometimes it takes more courage to heal than it does to stay suffering. But I have, as a therapist, I have faith in the ability of people to heal. And that's what keeps me going. I know that even though the nights may be long and dark, there is dawn on the other side, or there can be.
I think that's beautiful. And I think I wanted to end it there, but I want to highlight what you just said, which was so powerful, that It takes courage, more courage to heal than to stay suffering. Because if I'm understanding you correct, you have to actually get your body and heart moving in a direction that's uncomfortable, that is new territory, and opening yourself up to the possibility versus a guarantee.
That's exactly right. You actually have to move into the pain, the emotional pain first, as a first step of healing. Instead of running away from the pain of the situation, you have to face it head on. That's why I wrote my book, Constructive Wallowing. I wanted to teach people how to do that, to sit with those difficult feelings so that they can move through to the other side.
Well, thank you so much. I want to thank you for enriching me today, but most of all, I want to thank you for not giving up on people and not giving up on relationships, because we started with this philosophical question in the beginning: does a family unit make a better society? It seems like we believe it does, but at the end of the day, we want better individuals, because better individuals interact with each other every day. So I thank you so much for your work, and I appreciate you giving me your insight and your time. Thank
It's
you.
been a great pleasure talking with you, Maaria. This was a great conversation. Thank you.
With that, today I bid you peace.